Welcome back, everybody. That City Spinout. Recent finds and listens from the music collection. Bringing us in today, the words, music, and poetry of Indigenous Canadian folk singer Willie Dunn. Playing here from a recently released anthology on Light in the Attic Records, first ever compilation of his work, entitled Willie Dunn, Creation Never Sleeps, Creation Never Dies. Song called Son of the Sun. Willie Dunn was Canadian, born of mixed heritage, with a father who was born in the UK and a mother who was a full native. He embraced both sides of his nature, his heritage, with feet in both cultures. Here encapsulating that in the lyrics, I'm a brown-skinned man, that's what I am. Got a guitar and a drum, that's where I come from. While he says, I had a dream of my own accord. They laid to rest the gun and the sword, buried the hatchet, they buried the snake, vowed to each other, peace to make, son of the sun. Full disclosure, this release put together by a friend of mine, been to his house many times when he lived in town here. Willie Dunn Anthology, several years in the making. This is an outgrowth of the Native North America compilation Light in the Attic put out in 2014. Willie Dunn features on this compilation. In fact, his I Pity the Country, the very first song on it. That song is a scathing indictment of colonialism. Willie Dunn was born on the East Coast, served in the Canadian Armed Forces, went overseas to Africa on a peacekeeping mission, where an African person asked him what had happened to the Native Canadians, the Indigenous Canadians. That startled him to his core. He realized it was a part of his heritage he hadn't really explored too fully. So when he got home and left the armed forces, he became a folk singer, traveling back and forth across the country with his guitar, performing in coffee houses of the 1960s, the folk circuit. Even started his own called the Totem Pole. Even spent some time over here on the West Coast in my city. He also got very heavily involved in researching the history of Indigenous people in North America, particularly in Canada, getting involved in a lot of the issues. At the time, there was a Red Power movement seeking to bring attention to the issues surrounding Indigenous people of Native heritage, taking back control from the government. And Willie Dunn got heavily involved in that. Singer, songwriter, performer, but first and foremost an activist. He also became involved with the National Film Board in Canada. One of his songs called The Ballad of Crowfoot, taking a look at more than a century's history of Native Americans through the eyes of the titular Indian leader. The Indian Wars of the 1800s, their legacy, that was inspired him to make a film using still photo techniques that were later popularized by documentary filmmakers like Ken Burns. And his film that he made was used by the National Film Board for educational purposes for many years. Songs like Pontiac, Crazy Horse, taking a view of the history of Native peoples in the Americas. One of the most poignant songs on here, Charlie, is based on a true story of a 12-year-old Native boy named Cheney Wenjack, who was sent to one of the residential schools which proliferated in Canada for more than a century, where Native children were taken from their homes, their families, and sent to religious-run schools where the intent was to eradicate any trace of their Native culture, to assimilate them into Anglo-Saxon culture. And in 1966, Cheney Wenjack ran away from one of these schools. He was 12 years old, was intended to walk hundreds of miles back to his home on the reserve, but perished from starvation and exposure to the sub-zero elements. True story, which Willie Dunn encapsulated in song. "O Canada," he reworks the national anthem to raise a mirror to some of the maybe uncomfortable truths regarding national history, as well as he has a very literate use of imagery, of words. He embraced both sides of his heritage, even merges the poems of William Shakespeare with traditional native chants and drummings on Sonnet 33 and 55, Friendship Dance, as well as folk, country. Talks about Louis Riel, the Métis leader, and the Métis Red River Song. If you don't know, the Métis are people of mixed Native and European heritage, mainly French-Canadian on that side. Louis Riel, Canadian leader of the Métis, who was hanged in the late 1800s for leading a revolt against the Canadian government. So Willie Dunn, release put together by a friend of mine, very extensive liner notes, almost a mini biography actually, that comes with this release, which is, by the way, a 2 LP set on red vinyl from Light in the Attic Records. For some reason, I got 2 copies of the booklet. Very extensive notes detailing the history of Willie Dunn as he got involved with his heritage, learning, digging into the past, into his history as a person of mixed heritage, of Aboriginal heritage. Willie Dunn, his song, "I Pity the Country," led off the compilation Native North America, which was also put together by my friend. It was nominated for a Grammy Award. Unfortunately, Willie Dunn passed away in 2013, the year before this was released. He never got to see it, but this release kicked off a major reappraisal of Indigenous music within North America, which has been very welcome to see. Things have certainly changed. The residential schools, which proliferated for more than 100 years in Canada, I think the last one was still operational until around 1996. These days, my local school, the local elementary school my kids go to, there is a dedicated program for people of Aboriginal heritage to preserve their culture, which is run by the local band. There is native art in the gymnasium. There's a massive woven mural on one of the walls of native crafting. So things have certainly changed, but that is thanks to activists like Willie Dunn, who shone a light perhaps on some of the less savory aspects of Canadian history. On to a bit of psychedelic rock now, 1960s style. As heavy rain falls outside. Rainy day, dream away. It's from a 2019 Record Store Day compilation called Poppies. Saw a Vinyl Richie show this back then. Happened to wander into the record store a couple of days after that. Found it there. Smell of Incense. This compiles sides from the vaults of labels like Vanguard, even Stax, a couple of tunes appeared on. Title track is from the well-known Illuminations LP by Buffy Sainte-Marie, which I do have. Mostly obscure songs on here. The Gospel, Redeemer, that's included on a Light in the Attic compilation I do have. Circus Maximus is on here. I have one of their albums, which featured a very young Jerry Jeff Walker. Serpent Power, one of the groups on here I have heard of. Don't have anything by them. But other than that, mostly obscure groups. Nice compilation from the Kraft Recordings label. Which appeared on, appropriately enough, translucent red vinyl. Sounds called Ethiopian rock, as I would tell you. As released on this recent compilation from the Great Pressure Sounds label out of the UK. Tail end of 2020 this came out. When Jah Shall Come. It's a various artists compilation of Bunny Striker Lee Productions. Just when you thought there couldn't possibly be anything left in Buddy Lee's tape archives, Pressure Sounds proves you wrong. This tune is just one of many surprises on the set. It's a DJ tune by the obscure Jah Smile. Only tune he recorded as a DJ, because Bunny Lee persuaded him to change to singing. Under the name Barry Brown. Well-known singer in reggae, many hit songs. I never knew he started out as a DJ. Just one of many revelations in this set. And this set is full of previously unreleased versions. Even a majority, actually, of the tracks unreleased until now. Culled from the extensive archives of the late Bunny Lee. Dread. In keeping with some of their other sets of recent years, this one takes kind of almost a fly-on-the-wall view of the studio processes, the working conditions, as these legendary figures of reggae put all the core elements together behind the recordings that fans have known and loved for many years. On this set, you find, like we just heard, artists you know well under other names, having started out as someone else in a different style. You see artists like Johnny Clark covering over Horace Andy. You see Ronnie Davis covering over Johnny Clark. Bunny Lee mixing things up, seeing what works best, trying to come up with a hit song. Many previously unreleased versions, alternative versions. You've got a previously undiscovered cut of the well-known Jamaican Fruit of African Roots by Sheila Rickards. This version featuring a prominent horn solo by Lennox Brown. That song is behind a documentary that was made on the unraveling the mystery behind that previously obscure song. Just wicked stuff on here. Some dub plate mixes. You find Cornell Campbell, great Cornell Campbell, the great singer from Bunny Lee's camp, contributing a dub plate, bigging up King Tubby's sound system versus rival Arrow's sound system. He says, Arrows, you better watch out, King Tubby's a come. These are dub plate mixes, never intended to be heard by the public, exclusives now revealed to the public many years after they were first unleashed as part of the owner's arsenal. Wicked tune, one song credited to the raver. Even Bunny Lee can't remember who the singer was, so you know they're digging deep in the archives for this one. Another absolutely wicked set from the great Pressure Sounds label out of the UK. Pure fire. One more for today. Crucial UK Roots Reggae reissue. Just came out this year. Originally came out in 1983. Flash it and go on, me operator. Vivian Jones, Bank Robbery LP. Rare, sought after. This will set you back triple digits in the original press. Vivian Jones, born in Jamaica, raised by his grandparents. A little bit later on, moved to the UK to join his parents. Began getting involved in various bands in music. Finally started to move as a solo singer. Linked up with Jashaka, who he'd be associated with on and off over the years. And finally came to record his debut LP, backed by the Undivided Roots Band, who were a group of session players who had been working with Adrian Sherwood. Following the departure of their singer, they would rename themselves the Rough Cut Band and become a in-demand session outfit, cutting tracks for a host of UK-based and visiting Jamaican reggae acts. Vivian Jones, one of those artists who's kind of a mainstay on the UK scene, is known to discriminating selectors and reggae fans all over the world, but he's going to be completely unknown to most. Still active today. First couple of LPs, including this one, very rare and sought after. Nice to see a high quality reissue on this one from the Roots Vibration label out of Belgium. Heavy UK roots, capturing the energy of a UK sound system dance of the time. One go do it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Peace.